Let me share something that almost no one has ever taken the time to properly explain to you. Right now in 2026, there are three distinct pieces of genuinely good news for older Americans. Three separate pools of money that have your name written all over them. And the majority of people watching this video will walk right by all three without ever touching a dollar. Not because they fail to meet the requirements, but because no one ever sat them down and told them these things existed. After months of headlines filled with talk about reductions and freezes and everything at the grocery store costing more than it used to, I want to flip the script today. I want to hand you three concrete ways to put real money back into your wallet. One of them can eliminate a bill you are currently paying right now, pulled directly from your Social Security check before it ever reaches you. One of them can take a significant chunk out of the heating and cooling bills that drain you twice every year. And the third is an entirely separate monthly check that an enormous number of seniors are completely convinced they aren't permitted to receive, and they are absolutely mistaken. Study after study consistently finds that roughly 1 in every 3 older Americans who fully qualify for these benefits never collects a single dollar. That is money just sitting there with your name attached to it. So stay right here with me because I'm going to walk you through exactly what all three of these are. Who genuinely qualifies? The one common income mistake that causes people to eliminate themselves when they absolutely shouldn't, and precisely how to claim every single one. Here is how we're going to do this. I'll take each one individually in plain, straightforward language with no confusing jargon. For each benefit, I'll explain what it is, who actually qualifies, and I mean the real income figures for this year specifically, not some vague reference to low income, and the exact process for claiming it. I'll also pause and flag a scam that tends to follow this kind of money around like a shadow. Because the moment there is a benefit available for seniors to claim, somebody is already on the phone somewhere trying to steal it, and I'm saving the most significant one for the very end. So stay with me all the way through. Above everything else, pay careful attention when I get to the income thresholds, because that is exactly where thousands of people incorrectly decide they earn too much and essentially hang up on money that was legitimately theirs to take. My name is Walter Barron. I've spent more than 15 years working as an estate attorney, sitting across kitchen tables from families, and going through the fine print of these programs line by line alongside them. I'm not here to sell you anything today. I don't work for the government, and I don't earn a single dollar based on whether you claim these benefits or not. I simply read the rules so that you don't have to, and I translate them into plain language that tells you what they actually mean for your money. And before I get started, one thing I want to say clearly. It doesn't matter to me whether you're 62 or 92, and it doesn't matter if you're completely certain you earn too much to qualify. Watch all three of these before you make any decisions about whether any of them applies to you, because the people who assume they won't qualify are almost always the exact ones leaving the most money sitting on the table. Now let me answer the question I can already feel some of you forming in the back of your mind. If all of this is real, why has nobody ever mentioned it to me before? That is a completely fair question, and the answer is the same deeply frustrating reason for all three of these programs. These benefits pay out based on who applies for them. There is no person whose specific job it is to look at your financial picture, pick up a phone, and say, based on what you're bringing in each month, you qualify for this benefit, let me get you enrolled. That person simply does not exist anywhere in the system. These benefits sit under confusing program names, hidden behind applications that most people never encounter. And the people who need them most, older Americans living on a fixed income, are precisely the ones least likely to go digging through government websites hunting for them. So they just sit there, unclaimed, year after year after year. Today, we change that. So here is the first piece of good news, and it's one you can actually start pursuing this very week. If you're enrolled in Medicare, you are almost certainly paying a premium for Part B. That's the portion that covers your doctor appointments and outpatient services, and it comes directly out of your Social Security check before that money ever reaches your bank account. In 2026, that premium is just over $200 every single month. Read that again carefully. That is more than $2,400 every year being quietly pulled out of your check month after month without most people giving it a second thought. Now, here is where the good news enters. There is a program called the Medicare Savings Program where your state government will pay that premium on your behalf. Not reduce it, not discount it, actually pay it in full, which means those $200+ each month stop disappearing from your Social Security and your monthly check increases by exactly that amount. For a significant number of seniors, that single change represents the largest effective raise they will receive all year. And it doesn't come from any act of Congress, and it doesn't come from a cost of living adjustment. It comes from a program that almost nobody ever bothers to apply for. And the reach of this program can extend well beyond just the premium itself. There are actually several different versions of this program available. The most generous version for people with the lowest incomes doesn't only cover your Part B premium, it also eliminates your Medicare deductibles and your co-payments entirely, meaning those unexpected bills that show up in your mailbox after a doctor's visit simply stop coming. The other versions designed for slightly higher income levels cover the premium itself. But every single version of this program puts genuine money back in your hands. Now, who actually qualifies? And this is the part where I need you to stay with me, because this is precisely where people eliminate themselves and essentially hang up on their own money. This is determined by your income, and the qualifying thresholds are considerably higher than most people tend to assume. For 2026, depending on which version of the program you're looking at, a single individual can have a monthly income of up to somewhere around $1,800 and still qualify to have that Part B premium covered entirely. For a married couple, the threshold is even higher, reaching up into the $2,400 range per month. So before you dismiss this and tell yourself you earn too much, actually go and check the numbers, because a great number of people who are completely certain they're over the limit turn out to fall comfortably within the qualifying window. Do not disqualify yourself sitting at your own kitchen table based on a guess. Let the actual application do that math for you. Let me put a human face on this, because raw numbers don't fully land until you picture a real person. Think of a widow. I'll call her Margaret. Margaret is 73 years old. She receives a modest Social Security check each month, and like clockwork, just over $200 of that check disappears toward her Medicare Part B premium before the money ever touches her bank account. Margaret had always assumed these programs were meant for other people, people in worse financial shape, certainly not someone like her. But when someone finally sat down and ran her actual income numbers against the real qualifying limits, she fell within the threshold. Her state took over responsibility for that premium. And just like that, her Social Security check was $200 larger every single month, roughly $2,500 more per year flowing into her pocket. And nothing about Margaret's situation changed except that someone finally showed her the door had been open the entire time. Most people never get that someone. How do you go about claiming this? You apply through your state's Medicaid office or local social services agency, and for a genuinely easy path through the process, you can get completely free guidance from your local state health insurance assistance program, which most people refer to simply as SHIP. They will walk you through every step of the application, and it costs you absolutely nothing. It is free to apply, and you should never, under any circumstances, pay anyone a fee to sign you up for this program. When you make that call, you do not need to arrive as an expert with every piece of paperwork already memorized. You simply say in plain, everyday language, "I'm on Medicare, I'm living on a fixed income, and I'd like to find out whether I qualify to have my Part B premium covered." That one sentence is all it takes to get the process moving. They'll ask you a few basic questions about your monthly income and guide you through everything else from there. You don't need to know the technical name of the specific program version or which tier you fit into. That is their job entirely. Your only job is to raise your hand and ask the question. The people who receive this benefit are simply the ones who picked up the phone and made the call. And that brings me to the warning I promised you, because this is exactly the category of money that scammers are drawn to. Here's the way it typically unfolds. The moment word spreads about a benefit like this one, the phone calls begin. Someone calls you, sounds completely official, claims to represent Medicare or Social Security, and tells you they can get your premium reimbursed or your new benefit activated immediately. They just need you to confirm your bank account number, your Social Security number, or your Medicare identification number. Stop right there. Hang up the phone. Medicare and Social Security do not call you out of nowhere and request that kind of sensitive information in order to deliver money to you. They simply don't operate that way. If someone on the other end of a phone call is creating urgency and asking for your banking details to release a benefit to you, that is a thief attempting to steal from you, not a government representative trying to help you. You go directly to the source yourself, either your state office or SHIP, and you never provide your personal information to whoever initiated that call to you. All right, that covers the first one. Now let me walk you through the second, because this one addresses a bill I know genuinely keeps some of you lying awake at night, and that is your energy bill. There is a federal program administered through each state called the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. The vast majority of people have never heard of it, and those who have almost universally assume it couldn't possibly apply to someone like them. This program helps you pay for heating and cooling costs in your home, and depending on your specific household size, your income level, and the state where you live, it can direct anywhere from a couple $100 up to approximately $1,000 toward that bill. In most cases, the funds are paid directly to your utility company on your behalf, so the money never even needs to pass through your hands. Here's the detail most people completely miss, and it's a significant one. When people hear the phrase heating assistance, they automatically picture the depths of winter and nothing beyond that. But this program covers cooling costs as well. The air conditioning that keeps an older person safe during the peak summer heat is not a luxury item. It is a genuine health and safety necessity. And layered on top of the standard benefit, there is typically an emergency component as well. If you've received a shutoff notice from your utility provider, or your furnace or air conditioning unit has completely stopped working, there are emergency funds specifically designated for exactly those situations. And here is something that should bring you real relief. Claiming this benefit does not reduce your Social Security payments in any way. It does not count as income that works against you in other program calculations. And it doesn't take anything away from anyone else who may need help. I do need to be straightforward with you about one important thing, and it's the very reason I'm telling you about this right now rather than several months down the road. The funding for this program is limited in supply. When a state exhausts its annual allocation, that's the end of it until new funding becomes available. States prioritize distribution to the households they consider most at risk, and older Americans living on fixed incomes are typically right at the top of that priority list. But you actually have to be in the queue to receive help. The application period is open right now through the spring season, so please do not delay this particular one until the cold arrives and the money is already gone. Picture a retired couple getting by on his pension check and both of their Social Security payments, watching their gas bill climb steadily every winter and quietly rationing the heat in their own home to manage it. They had never applied for a single program in their entire lives and had no intention of starting now. They considered it charity. They didn't see themselves as people who did things like that. One phone call later, several $100s went straight to their utility account. Emergency funds through the crisis component repaired a furnace that had been struggling through 2 consecutive winters. And for the first time in years, the cold months ahead stopped being something they quietly dreaded. That help had been sitting there waiting for them the entire time. All they ever had to do was ask, how do you access it? Contact your local energy assistance office. Every single state in the country has one. Or do the simplest thing available to you and dial 211. In the great majority of places across the country, that is a free helpline that will connect you directly to the specific office handling this program in your area. Free to apply, and once again, no legitimate organization will ever charge you a fee of any kind to submit your application. All right, here comes the third one, and honestly, for the right person watching this right now, this is the largest of all three. Because it isn't a discount on something you already pay, and it isn't a bill being covered on your behalf. It is an entirely separate monthly check. It's called Supplemental Security Income, commonly shortened to SSI. And I need you to hold two distinct ideas separately in your mind, because this is exactly the point where people most commonly get confused. There is Social Security, the retirement benefit you earned through decades of working and paying into the system, and then there is SSI, which is a completely separate federal payment program designed for people who are 65 or older, or who have a qualifying disability and who are currently living on a low income with limited financial resources. And here is the misunderstanding that costs people the most money. Most people automatically assume that because they already receive a Social Security retirement check, they cannot possibly receive this additional check on top of it. That assumption is simply not accurate. If your Social Security check is on the smaller side, you can very frequently receive SSI payments on top of it to bring your total monthly income up to a livable level. One benefit does not automatically eliminate the other. For 2026, the SSI amounts were increased. There was a cost of living adjustment applied at the very end of last year, bringing the maximum monthly SSI payment for a single individual to approximately $994. For a married couple, that figure lands just under $1,500 per month. Now, if you are already receiving some Social Security income, your SSI benefit is typically reduced by a portion of that amount, so you may not receive the full maximum figure. But receiving a reduced amount is absolutely not the same as receiving nothing. A partial SSI payment arriving every single month for a senior on a tight fixed income can be the precise difference between a month that works financially and a month that doesn't. Stretched across a full year, even a partial monthly check accumulates into thousands of dollars that you are currently not receiving. And here's where people tend to eliminate themselves again before they've even started, so let me address it directly. It's true that this program evaluates your available resources and savings. However, the home you live in does not count toward that limit, and your vehicle generally does not count either. So please do not look at the house you own and conclude you're automatically disqualified before you've even submitted a question. This benefit was designed specifically for the person who worked their entire adult life, now receives a modest Social Security check, and quietly comes up a little short at the end of every single month. Think of a man I'll call Tom, 38 years of consistent, reliable work, a small pension that eventually disappeared, and a Social Security check that simply doesn't stretch all the way to the end of the month, regardless of how carefully he manages things. Tom was absolutely convinced that SSI was a welfare program, and that a man like him would never see a dollar of it. He was wrong on both counts. A partial SSI check began arriving each month on top of his existing Social Security, adding several $100s every month. And for the first time in years, the basic math of his monthly finances actually balanced. If that description sounds like you, or like someone you care about deeply, this is the section to lean forward and pay closest attention to. How do you claim it? You apply directly through the Social Security Administration, either through their website online, over the telephone, or in person at your nearest local SSA office. And it is completely free to apply. You do not need to pay anyone anything to file this application for you. Now, let me tell you why this particular year, 2026 specifically, is the year to go and check on all three of these, even if you looked into them at some point before and were either turned away or gave up partway through. At the very end of last year, the annual cost of living adjustment moved all the relevant numbers. The SSI payment amount increased. The income thresholds on these various programs shifted upward, and the Medicare premium itself changed. When those numbers move, the boundary line for who qualifies moves right along with them, which means people who were sitting just barely above the qualifying threshold last year may now be sitting comfortably below it this year without a single thing about their own lives or income changing at all. So if you looked into any of these 2 or 3 years ago and decided your income was too high, that conclusion is now outdated. The line has moved since then. Go and check again. I've watched this exact scenario play out firsthand. Someone is told, no, you're $50 a month above the income limit, and they absorb that answer like it's a permanent verdict carved into stone and they never revisit it again. But that income limit is not permanent. It moves upward almost every single year when the cost of living adjustment takes effect. So that $50 that closed the door on you last year, this year the door may already be standing wide open. And nobody in any government office is going to pick up the phone and call to let you know it swung open. The only way you will ever discover that is by going back and checking again yourself. That effort costs you one single phone call, and it could potentially be worth thousands of dollars annually. So let me pull all three together for you, because I think when you see the full picture stacked up in one place, it registers differently and with more weight. The Medicare Savings Program. If your state steps in and covers that Part B premium, that's more than $2,400 returning to your Social Security check each year. And under the most generous version, your deductibles and co-pays disappear entirely on top of that. The Energy Assistance Benefit, up to approximately $1,000 per year, directed toward your heating and cooling costs, paid straight to your utility provider so you never handle it directly. And SSI, for the right person, that is potentially close to $12,000 per year. And even a partial check represents thousands of dollars you are simply not receiving right now. Add those three together, and for a large number of people watching this, we are not discussing minor pocket change. We are discussing the genuine difference between a retirement where every single month is a white-knuckle financial struggle and one where you can finally exhale and breathe. And here is what I really want you to take away from all of this. The seniors who are collecting all three of these benefits are not more intelligent than you are. They did not earn these programs more than you did. They simply found out these things existed and they completed the application. That is the only real difference between them and the 1 in 3 who never collect a single dollar. And now you know they exist too. Let me make that concrete with one final real-world example. Picture a single senior woman living on a modest Social Security check who happens to qualify for all three programs. Her state takes over her Part B premium, returning over $2,400 per year to her monthly check. The Energy Assistance Program covers a meaningful portion of her heating costs through winter and her cooling costs through summer, adding several hundred more. And a partial SSI check quietly supplements the months that used to consistently come up a little short. Stack those three together, and you are looking at thousands of tax-free dollars every year flowing to a woman who, 12 months earlier, would have looked you directly in the eye and told you with complete confidence that the government didn't owe her a single thing. That is what actually claiming all three of these can genuinely look like in practice. Now, before I hand you the final and most important piece of actionable information, I want to mention something I put together because so many people have asked me for it directly. Everything I cover on this channel, the benefits most seniors never pursue, the checks and credits tucked inside programs you're already connected to, the tax advantages, the strategies for protecting your Social Security income and your home, all the moves that keep every dollar you're rightfully owed inside your own pocket, I've compiled all of it in one accessible location, written in plain and easy to follow language, in a resource called the Senior Money Playbook. It's structured as a step-by-step guide with the actual numbers to look for and the specific language to use when you make your calls. If you'd like access to it, the link is right there in the description below this video. But absolutely everything you need to take your first step on all three of these programs is contained right here in this video. So here is exactly what I want you to do next. Do not let another year slip by while this money sits unclaimed on the table because you made an assumption at your kitchen table that you didn't qualify. Take these one at a time and work through them. For the Medicare Savings Program, call your State Health Insurance Assistance Program, SHIP, or your state Medicaid office directly. For the energy assistance, dial 211 or locate your nearest energy assistance office, and please do it soon while the program funding is still available and not yet exhausted. And for SSI, go straight to the Social Security Administration directly. All three are completely free to apply for. And remember what I told you about incoming phone calls. The government is not going to call you and ask for your bank account number as a condition of delivering these benefits to you. You reach out to them. You never hand your sensitive personal information to whoever initiated a call to you. Because here is the fundamental truth sitting beneath everything I've said today. Nobody is going to show up at your front door and personally hand you what you are owed. The system is quietly structured to continue paying only the people who actively step forward and ask for it. And it will happily allow you to move through your entire retirement without ever collecting a single dollar of this, if you allow it to. The only person who is going to make certain you receive every dollar with your name on it is you. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, do one thing for me right now. Share it with someone you love who is 65 or older, particularly anyone living on a tight fixed income who is firmly convinced the government doesn't owe them anything. They may be sitting on thousands of dollars each year that they have never once heard anyone mention, and they are the least likely person in the world to ever go out and find it on their own. You can be the reason they finally do. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so the next one reaches you.